Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable, ongoing reality. And here we are. Welcome, guys. How you guys doing?
Here we are again.
Yeah, we are.
Second week.
Second week in a row. Wow. What do we have the honors to? It's a lot of stuff going on, lots of stuff.
Well, it's pretty crazy right now, isn't it?
It is pretty
so many
crazy.
Things happening.
And, I don't know about you or any of you that are watching. The times that we're living right now really has gotten a lot of thinking, a lot of reflecting, a lot of pain being brought back up and trying to sort things out and in some sort of compartmentalized reasoning. And it's just hard to do.
It really is. It's really difficult to make sense of things that, it's are being told to us and stuff. It's almost since 2020, we've been living in an alternative world. It really
with me,
feels
it's
that way.
Been even before 2020 because I've tried to make sense of life. And to be honest, I find no sense in life. I find no sense to the point that, the transition, the detransition, finding my place in the world, trying to really understand my actions, understand who I am beyond this realm, beyond this boxed in reality that we're forced into, literally.
Yeah, it just feels like something is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't really quite figure out what's going on, but it seems like we're getting closer to this, what they would call a revelation.
Yeah.
An uncovering,
a revealing,
an apocalypse,
yeah,
as it were, of what is to be.
Exactly. And I know all of you feel it out there. I know that all of you are sensing something, although you're trying to go on with your regular life on a day-to-day, mundane, programmed type of existence, but you can't escape it. It's kind of like the movie The Matrix, where Neo knew that something was wrong, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He was then faced with, do you want the blue pill or do you want the red pill? And if you take one, you go to sleep and nothing happens, and you take the other one, things kind of start really, happening in your brain. You start seeing and realizing that something is very wrong.
What's really happening? What's going on? It's just to start it off, just this week, we have a Supreme Court Justice nominee sitting in a Senate confirmation hearing, and she cannot define what a woman is.
Now, can she not define it, or she's too afraid of the advocates to come after her, of people shaming her? Because that's been the latest. People can't even have their own thoughts without somebody trying to point their fingers at them or shame them for saying the wrong things.
And it's turning into this kind of that's misinformation.
Yeah, everything's misinformation.
Everything's misinformation. Sometimes I wonder if we're any better than the country that's way out on the other side of the Pacific Ocean.
We pretend we are.
We say that we're not like them because they're kind of extreme.
It's like anything you put on Facebook, you have to have a fact checker, and who checks the fact checker? Because not long ago, the fact checkers were denying certain things or now are known as truth. So it's just a matter of time before what was once a conspiracy becomes truth.
And who gave these platforms the power that they have? I mean, all of a sudden, in the last what? I mean, I think it was 2007 when FB came online,
Yeah.
for the general public. Here we are, 2022, and it's a free service.
Mm-hmm.
It was touted as being a way for us to reconnect with our friends and be able to post our own lives on there and everything. And it was never like mentioned that we would have our information censored, that we would be shut up. There's so many people leaving this platform itself because of all that,
Censorship,
restricting.
restriction. You can't say this. You need to say that. And if you say this, you're going to get in trouble. And it's like, what in the world? We are living in the United States of America, folks. Last I checked, it's supposed to be the land of the free.
Home of the not
Not
so
so
brave, I
brave.
guess.
I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
It just feels like, when I would listen to the justice nominee Jackson, she was actually talking about, you know, that she wasn't a biologist.
No,
That's
no.
why she couldn't. She laughed and stuff at,
Mm-hmm.
the Senator Blackburn for saying what she was saying, and simply asking a very simple question.
And it all stems down. And I want to point out, I don't identify as a Christian. I identify as a follower of the way. And the way of righteousness, the way of truth, the way of love and light, and the way of understanding that there is wrong and there's right, and that sometimes we delve into a path that's not so good and the outcome is not so great, and you kind of feel it and you know it when you've done something that is kind of out of whack or misaligned with a greater good, right? So don't want anybody to think that, and as I mentioned in my Facebook, I'm not a poster child for anyone anymore,
No.
because everyone wants you to say certain things and wave their flag, and if you just deviate from that, then you're a horrible person. I've been made out to be like the worst person in the world because I live my life through making mistakes. I go back and I go forth. No one knows the kind of pain that I'm in. No one could ever even imagine. And I've never been the kind of person that wants to do the violent of life and I want any pity from anybody. But I know what my life has been like and what I've gone through. And, it is what it is. We all are in pain. Many people don't like to admit it. But my point is, I wanted to point out this particular statement that rings real true. They won't define a baby. Therefore, they won't protect them, right? They won't define a woman, therefore they won't protect them. Pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, I also heard someone else saying that if the Supreme Court justice can't define what a woman is, then how can she possibly be someone who can be trusted to protect the rights of women?
Yeah, of
I
women.
mean, it's like, it's almost like there's like this underlying realization that a woman is a female person
Mm-hmm.
who was born
Was
female,
born a baby
who
girl. Yeah.
literally has gametes that are female gametes
Mm-hmm.
for reproduction, and those are ova,
Yeah.
they're not sperm.
Exactly.
So a female
And has a uterus to
has
carry this
a
child for
uterus,
9 months.
and she has the female reproductive system
Right.
that it takes in order to create life
Right.
and to maintain life as it's developing within the womb.
And certain characteristics, and this is not being stereotypical, is not being any which way. If you look at nature, nature will speak to you. Nature plays out the role that it's intended, because if not, things fail. Terrible things could happen if everyone that's meant to play a role don't play that role. Somebody's going to drop the ball, like in any kind of sports. Everyone.
We were watching also a very interesting little nature video of two skylarks. I think they
Hmm.
are little birds
Birds, yeah.
that literally they have a job,
Hmm.
and that is to create and propagate life.
Exactly.
And there is a specific role given to the female, uh, and there's a specific role given to the male.
And that's the same with human beings, even though we're way far from those specific roles.
Yeah, and basically the female is given the job of making sure that the home that she picks for, for nesting and for the egg laying is conducive to the life of said offspring.
Right.
So she's in charge of like making sure that the nest is safe, making sure that the location is well protected, making sure that she's the one that builds it, she's the one that
Cleans
cleans
it
it, she's the one that maintains it. And what does the male bird do? The male bird brings her food
and food for the little
and
babies.
food for the little babies when they're
Yeah.
hatched. But he has a specific role in the maintenance of that.
Yeah, and even
Yeah,
like when we saw the video, we would think that the male bird would be the protective one. Oh no. The male bird actually hid behind the female when some intruder was trying to come in, and that mama bird was not going to have it. She
she
would have bit the head off of whatever it was that came into or try to enter that particular nesting ground. So, we're very far from what our intentional roles are. And people want to call that misogynistic. They want to do all sorts of different things and poo poo on what nature, call it God, call it nature, Mother Earth, whatever it is that you believe in and want to call it, has intended for us. And this is why I truly believe that when we mess with Mother Nature, we're in for a big surprise and not a good one. Because when we try to be God ourselves, when we try to take life into our own hands, we mess things up.
and when we actually get to a place in society where we can't define things that were easily definable just 25, 30 years ago, this question, if it would have been posed to a Supreme Court nominee in 1985,
Mm-hmm.
would have
It
would
would have been
have been a
simple,
no-brainer,
no brainer at
right?
all.
But see, the thing is, what I find is that that Supreme Court nominee, she knows she's a mother, she's a
Mm-hmm.
grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
she has children, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she has older kids and grandkids even.
Right.
And when they asked her, she just kind of laughed and said, I know what a woman is. I know what a woman is. But for the sake of the wokeness of the way things are today, where we can't be absolute in every definition that we have. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like we're being lulled to this state of complacency. I was listening. We were listening to something where a podcast that said, you know, kids are being told now that they live in a misinformation age, and the state is there to protect you. And so, in order for you to be protected from misinformation
Nation.
and
Yeah.
facts that aren't correct, then we will then censor those things that we don't think are true.
And they're teaching these kids and the population to get very violent against things that they don't agree with. Once upon a time, it was healthy to have debates. People had debates. The AC has just kicked in. People had debates, and they were able to like navigate it without this massive anger and unrestlessness. Now you can't have an opinion. You can't have two sides. And what they're doing is they're trying to erase one side and just leave one particular narrative. And that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. And you all are falling for that. You need to like understand that it's important to have different views. You may not agree with what I'm saying, but I have the right to say what I'm saying, as you have the right to say what you want to say.
And that's what the definition of free speech is all about. the ability to speak your mind, share your thoughts, share your opinions without fear of retribution, of some kind of, censorship, of some kind of silencing, canceling, some type of negative action against you, deplatforming you or demonetizing you or stripping you of your titles or stripping you of your certifications or your credentials,
Exactly. And it's crazy because that's not how life has been. We are heading into very dangerous grounds. We're heading into a place of the unknown. It's almost like a resetting. And it seems too familiar because I came from a communist country where they wouldn't allow you to have your own thoughts. And those that we're criticizing that are across the pond, where all this, commotion is taking place, we are becoming no different than they are. Actually, I believe it's worse because we are being led with false narratives that we are free, but yet we're not. We have no freedom. We can't say what we want to say. We can't do what we want to do.
we have created this monster of all these massive networks that are out there mining our information. They're subjugating us to their standards of what is right and what is wrong in the world.
Exactly.
They're telling us that you can say this and you can't say that. And we gave them this power. It's
Mm-hmm.
like these people did not become massive giants overnight.
No, we waited
We
to them.
we literally said, "Here, take my pictures, take my personality profile, take my everything,
Right.
about me,
Mm-hmm.
and have this power." Now they have so much power.
I know.
IG, FB,
Oh yeah.
YT, T,
Yeah.
TT, all
Anything.
these different
And Delaney,
platforms.
Delaney Pearl Jones joins us and says a spirit of fun competition has been polluted into a toxic rage. It surely has. It surely has.
You cannot speak your mind anymore. And there are so many creators going into different platforms where they're not going to be censored. We're actually one of those that think we would be better off going to some other platform to
Platform.
be able to not have our views throttled
Yeah.
and
They shadow
our
ban you. They kind of like put you down, don't let anybody see what you have to say. And, it's crazy. But that is the world that we're living right now. And it's a dangerous world. And it's a world where, you know, I I partly take blame because when I transitioned back in the day, I set forth a lot of things in motion and I'm seeing where it is now and it scares me. It scares me what I'm seeing that this is being pushed as something that is so necessary. Like this morning, we watched a video of this colored gentleman who was saying that kids need to be allowed to transition because the the numbers show that if they don't, they're going to commit suicide. And it's actually the other way around. There has been more suicide by those after transition, or their depression has gotten even worse because after you do what you do and you see that you didn't solve the problem, so you didn't get what you paid for, what you bargained for, then what do? What is the last run? It's like, oh, now what?
well, I mean, the real crux of the matter is the fact that these these solutions that are being promoted by the trans lobby are solutions that really don't have like any teeth to them,
None.
because what they do have is a promise of
Mm-hmm.
something that they can attain and something that they can be. And by being this and attaining this, that means that they're no longer going to be depressed. They're no longer going to feel a certain way about themselves. They're not no longer going to hate themselves. And for some that may be a solution, but for many it won't be, because in the meanwhile they have sacrificed their fertility, they have sacrificed their youth, they have sacrificed their generational future on a promise that wasn't even addressing
The true issue.
the true issue. which is a myriad of things
Yeah,
these
there's
days.
many different reasons why people transition. Whether you have been shamed all your life, whether you have some sort of neurological impairment, which I believe a very high percentage of trans
But
individuals do have.
but the thing is, I'm not even talking about transition. I'm just talking about issues that kids have
Oh yeah,
growing up.
oh, of
You
course.
know,
Adolescent years
the
are
different
horrible.
things that they're going through and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and you add, you know, the the age of puberty rising in
Mm-hmm.
these kids, and they're gonna cut off their puberty
Mm-hmm.
before it begins.
Which means not just the sexual characteristics prevention, but it also means the development of your brain, the development of the nervous system, and all sorts of slew of things that happen when puberty kicks in. So if you're stopping, you're suppressing that, you're going to be dealing with a lot of problems that just won't go away. And we have a very famous person whose life was on display, and they were on puberty blocker from a very young age, but right now they're on 18 medications.
18
Okay, that's a lot of medication. Yeah,
medications.
that's a
I
lot of
mean, I
just to
mean,
like function.
I've heard some, elderly people who are
Mm,
on all kinds of
yeah,
medications, but a 19, 20-year old.
not good, not good. So what does that solve? And it might somewhat relieve your gender dysphoria. And I'm going to say like this because there's many different definitions for gender dysphoria. There's dysphoria of many things. So you wish you were born something else, and because you're not, and you want to be something else, and you feel upset. It creates all sorts of angst in you. But so does not having enough money to pay your bills. So does not liking the way you look. So does not liking the body that you have because you wish you were a certain size, but you're another size. I mean, everyone in life has been dealt some sort of tragedy that they have to deal with. But we, as adults, we learn that, hey, life can't be always the way that I want it to be. But in that quest for that gender dysphoria, people do all sorts of things that they later regret. you know I mean, I know that I have tons and tons of regret. I know that I thought this thing was going to make me the happiest person alive. It was going to like align everything was going to be perfect. Well, guess what? It's
No.
not. And now I'm in the stage where I can't go back to the other, and I've tried, and you've all witnessed that, but it just does not fit because I refuse to walk around life being called sir when I'm trying to be a ma'am, and when I really know that I'm a ma'am, that I'm a woman. And so it messes with your mind, and it brings back all the childhood traumatization that I went through and all the terrible things that I had to endure. I'm lucky that I'm still here and alive, that I've not managed to like off myself, but it's part of life. Sometimes things go wrong. And I don't know if you want to talk about your feelings regarding this and the true feelings.
Well, I mean, these are real issues that, that impact us and impact everyone around us and everyone that we have ever loved. So it's hard to talk about it because that's where you have to be really really honest with yourself, and you have to really look deep into the core of who you are as a person
Right.
and why you do what you do, you know. And there are many times when, people that go through what I've gone through,
Mm-hmm.
as a later transitioner, that had a family and a loving wife and all that, that we don't really want to talk about, because it's embarrassing. It just speaks to our lack of being able to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
It speaks to our lack of maturity. I personally feel in my own um, life that my ability to assess risk and danger has been impaired by the fact that I may have not maybe even developed my whole prefrontal cortex. And I think that many times there's many in the trans community who are probably dealing with the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, we don't assess things, the brevity, the danger, the impact, the risk, the catastrophic um, damage that can be done to not only you but those around you. And for me, those catastrophic consequences have amounted to what I have today.
Mm.
And what I have today is a total inability to have a relationship with my children, um, and the loss of that is inexplicably destructive for me. There are many times when I cry myself to sleep, inconsolable in the sense of knowing that what I've done has not just damaged one generation, but countless, multiple generations. And that for me is a realization that I have come to understand uh, in the last, 3 or 4 years, and I've been transitioned since like eight, 8 years, I guess. And I, I just find it very regretful what, um, what I did, because I devastated so many people, and not understanding the the seriousness of it, you know, thinking that I could literally change my body from male to female, and being told that that's what was going on. They say you're stuck in the wrong body, right? That's what they tell you. And, you know, that's what you believe. When I was told, I went for my psych evaluation, which gratefully at that time they were still doing those kinds of things.
Yeah.
There was still a door open to go through the right gates in a certain degree, because now there are no gates.
Mm-hmm.
That now you say what you are, and you are what you say because you said what you are. And that whole question of what is a woman, what is a man, even, are not definable anymore,
No.
because society has been programmed to think that these are interchangeable um, definitions that can be used for either.
Which is dangerous and very scary, and it's pretty much on target of what um, a set of individuals have done so that they can take control of humanity the way that they are wanting to. We had the president of the United States speak about a new world order the other day, and everybody tags that with some sort of conspiracy theory.
And just for mentioning it, we'll get tagged
Oh yeah,
probably
I'm sure.
because
I'm
the
sure.
algorithm will
Yeah,
pick it
of
out.
course. But see, truth will set us free. Whatever it is that you believe in, whatever whatever it is, whether you are a Christian, a Buddhist, a Hindu that believes whatever it is that you believe in, we have to understand that there's right and there's wrong. And you know that deep inside your conscience, your consciousness, your conscious level. You know when you're doing something that's right, and you know when you're doing something that's wrong. You know when you're doing something that will benefit a bunch of people, and you know when you're doing something that's just going to benefit you.
And you'll find out as you get older, as a transition person, as I have. Not saying that everyone's life is like mine, because God knows everybody's life is different.
Right.
But, you know, you'll find out what it means and stuff, when, I had purpose. I had I had meaning. I had a reason to live. I had been entrusted with a responsibility and a job to do. And regardless of my gender dysphoria, whatever it might have been, regardless of how I would have felt about it, um, I I absolutely disregarded my responsibility. I absolutely just tossed my responsibility, six of them away, uh, and now I understand that this is a purposeless life without living for something. Without having something to wake up for and something to go to bed for. And it's different
All
when
right.
you have kids, when you're given the opportunity to see life come out of the womb, and you're able to see life grow, and you see these little people, little infants become little people, and then you see how they're like you, and then they're like their mom, and then they're like your grandfather, or they're like your dad, or I mean, it's like there's so
Yeah.
many neat things, and then when you realize that now, and I mean, there's many trans women who have their children in their lives, and
But I
and,
wanted
and
to
they
speak towards
still.
that. Yeah, they have their children in their life, but selfishly, they're living out what they want to live out at the cost of what their children are missing. Because the trans women have these kids in their life, kind of these kids are being forced to accept this parent as a trans woman or another mommy when they have their mother. They don't need another mother, they need their father. But these trans women, and I'm sorry if you get upset at me for saying this, but it's fact. They need their father. They were brought into this world, not asking to be born, but they were brought into this world to be taken care of, to be taught correctly, to be loved, to be like protected from all the craziness that's happening in the world. And we all have a role to play. We all have purpose. And we have like thrown all that out the window for self gratification. And I don't know about you, but that self gratification doesn't taste so sweet after a while. And I know because I've watched not just you, but my other ex who also had a child, who also left the child to go pursue what she thought was the right thing to do for her, but didn't think about that child, what that child was going to be lacking. And that's painful. And I know it's painful for the trans person as well. I've seen you suffer throughout these entire years that we've been together. And it doesn't matter, there's nothing that could ever make you happy. No matter, we could be traveling the world, we could be doing, nothing ever makes you happy. And why is that? Because there's a massive hole in your soul, because you are missing what you were brought into this world to do,
Absolutely.
you
And
know?
you know and this is irrespective of how much of a struggle people have with gender dysphoria. I mean, it's like gender dysphoria. Yeah, I may say that I did alleviate some of it in my transition and stuff, but big whoop de doo
Yeah.
compared to the loss of children, and the loss of being able to nurture life, and to be able to be someone that they can count on, that they can go to, a person that they can look up to. I mean, you knock down their pillars.
Yeah. And then
You
where's
literally knock their
grandpa?
pillars down.
Where's grandpa? Because not only like father role, but then there's children have children, and they have grandmothers and they have grandfathers, and there's a role that we all play.
I mean, like, 50 years from now, if we're all still on this planet,
Yeah, God
people are
knows.
still existing, someone were to look up, you know, the Lopez family line,
Hmm.
and to say, wait a second, where does this Lynna person pop up?
Yeah.
Where does this Cummings last name
Crazy.
Where does that show up from?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
well, that, you know, that was your your great grandparent. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
and then, it's like a big family secret.
yeah,
Nobody wants to talk about it because it's
yeah.
embarrassing, because nobody wants to mention the fact that there was a transsexual
Right,
in the family line that disrupted the normal,
right.
like, family, like, dynamics.
And the woke crowd, wants to talk about unconditional love, but it's a one-way unconditional love. It's you want the love for you and acceptance for you and everything glorifying for you, but what about everybody else? It's everybody else supposed to walk around and believe the emperor had no clothes?
It's like,
Or had clothes when you had no clothes?
it's like this guy Tyler Merritt. He's an actor. He has this some new book that he came out with,
Mm-hmm.
and it's supposed to be really popular these days. And he put out a video and said, "These are our kids, man."
Yeah.
Okay,
He
this
has no
guy,
kids, by the
he
way.
doesn't have any children,
Right.
so he's taking it upon himself to be like, some kind of a parent
Mm-hmm.
to trans kids, and saying, you know, these are our kids, you're endangering our kids, by enacting these different legislation, in different courthouses across the country and stuff, where whether it's talking about trans athletes, or whether it's talking about surgically transitioning kids, or giving them puberty blockers or hormones. And he thinks that he's protecting kids by offering them acceptance and safety and protection from the big bad governor of Texas, who wants to make trans surgeries to young children
Right.
before they turn 18 against the law,
Yeah.
and wants to shut down the ability for a trans guy, a trans girl to be able to obtain cross-sex hormones at the age of 8.
And yet this guy has no clue on what happens to these children on blockers and hormones and surgeries, the long-term health effects, the problems they lead down the road, and the fact that gender dysphoria is never fully alleviated. It never can be, because we have a programming inside our bodies. We have a neurological system, we have chromosomes and DNA, and we have preset things that are there from the moment we're born, and you can never ever erase these things. So this whole concept of eliminating gender dysphoria goes out the window. All we're doing is hurting kids and hurting ourselves and hurting people that love us and people that we love by trying to fix something that, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, it's unfixable.
Well, the thing is, though, that there are so many young people that are transitioning now. And the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry, they have perked their ears to it. They see what can happen if they act on it. So, in the last 10 years, there have been trans, you know, uh, clinics opening up all across the country.
Yeah.
I just spoke to a really old friend of mine from high school, not age wise, but just given the fact that I was in high school in the 80s, makes us both old, I guess, right? But she worked for a children's hospital in Orange County, in California.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, she said that they were opening up new programs,
Yeah.
and that the parents were actually the ones that were insistent on the children, which were even maybe like 2 or 3 years of age, being given the proper pronouns that they wanted to give their kids, because that it was their wishes. It wasn't
Right.
even that these kids even understood anything about
Of
gender at
course
that
not. You
age,
can't at that
but
age.
but
Yeah.
they were actually going to fine.
$1,000 for every time you misgender. I mean, tell me this is not a business. And I found this just a little while ago. A Market Watch says that the market analysis insights global sex reassignment surgery market the size is projected to reach USD six, what is it, 619.1 million by 2028 from USD 23.6.7 million in 2022.
236.7.
Yeah,
So it's 619.
in 2028 it's projected to go up there. So in other words, I mean, we're seeing more and more of these clinics opening up. We're seeing more and more of these so-called doctors performing these procedures
So
on
like a
people.
14.2%
Yeah,
rise
rise. Yeah,
between the year now to
2028.
2028.
And fully considering the economic change by this health crisis, male to female, accounting for a percentage of the sex reassignment surgery in global market in 2022. So a lot of MTFs are the ones that are, because this is a lot more difficult for a trans guy. And there's a lot more involved, a lot more complications. But we're seeing a ton of people just undergoing this and not realizing that the dysphoria doesn't go away even with that. I've seen many of my friends who have transitioned and they're still in pain. You know many that are still in the same dilemma
Well,
they
it's
were.
it's hard, I mean, because I mean, I can't say that transition doesn't help alleviate some of the dysphoria. Obviously, it can uh, be a help in that area, but what is not explained is that you end up losing so much more.
Yeah.
I
But even
mean,
like the surgery, the complications, and it's not just complication during the time. I know individuals that after the years, things are popping up because there is not a doctor alive that could actually create a fully functional, healthy type of surgery because it's if you know what it entails, you understand that it's not at all what it's being promised, and that there will be complications because you're dealing with wounds, you're dealing with things that get infected, you're dealing with continuing having to go back to the medical system for revision and doing. And I've known many individuals that constant going to the doctor and that constant being under the knife has caused a lot of emotional stress and a lot of problems. And in the end, you never really get what you bargained for. I mean, it's
yeah, and that's the percentage of people that actually go through with
yeah,
everything, or they have the money to do
yeah,
so
because that's
because
very expensive,
it's a very expensive process to do such a thing.
right?
But even those that don't go all that direction
Mm-hmm.
to do that, there's still like, I mean, repercussions as you get older, as you realize that, you're sitting there talking to somebody and you're just having a casual conversation. And say you transitioned as a trans woman 20 years ago or whatever, and they start talking about issues that only women understand and know and are familiar with and have a sisterhood with other women with, and you're fish out of water.
Yeah,
What are you going to do? You're going to create your own full
yeah.
reality of when you were pregnant or
Mm-hmm.
when you had your period. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, no, you didn't, and you don't know what it's like to have the cramps, and I
No,
mean, none of that.
no,
You
no.
know,
Although some may try. I read something on Twitter the other day that someone said, "Oh, I'm starting to experience cramps." Well, that's virtually impossible because to experience cramp, you have to have a uterus that contracts during the time that the lining is being shed.
well, I
And
was I was told by an old friend, a trans friend of mine back in 2014 that, you know, that we would probably go on the same cycle because now that I was taking estrogen,
mm-hmm.
that it was going to put me on some kind of a cycle with her since we lived together,
Impossible. You need a
and
uterus to have a cycle and to have menstruation because it's
and
what
she felt like
menstruation.
she
Yeah,
was bleeding inside.
that's
I
impossible. You need a
mean,
uterus to do that, and you don't magically grow one. It's like I don't magically grow testicles or anything else. I
and
mean,
this is a person who literally had 4 kids
yeah,
as a man.
yeah,
I mean, so I mean,
yeah.
these are like,
It's rough. I know it's hard. Look, I've experienced the same pain that most trans individuals do. I've gone to the point where I've just like gone from one end to the other because I'm trying to figure things out. The same concept as trying to figure out the whole God thing and the whole what who are we? Where did we come from? Why are we struggling this way? Why can't human beings agree on anything? What is going on with us? Look at our state of being. I mean, it's like it's enough to drive a person crazy.
I mean, it's like we can't even, like, again, as we said at the beginning, we can't even define what a woman is anymore.
Or a baby for that matter. That's why all these like
Well, let's not get on the
yeah,
whole
I
topic
know,
of
but
of
it's all like it started with that. Now we can't define women. Okay, so like okay, we can't define a woman, we can't define a baby. So what in the world? Who are we? What are we? What has gotten into us? As a species, we could be living heaven on earth, but instead we're living hell on earth. It's just it's beyond me. It's crazy, and I don't know if there's going to be any relief in sight.
see, I don't. So this is where you go off into that negative world,
Right.
and I just get so turned off by the negative world that
But
you go
it's happening,
into.
babe.
No,
It's
I
like
know it's happening, but it's like you make it feel like it's things are so hopeless.
well, if people don't change, if people don't wake up, if people don't decide to take life into their own hands, like do things about what's happening, then I don't. I mean, I'm hoping that people do realize and say, "Wait a minute, what are we doing?" I'm hoping that happens. For the sake of
I
the
mean,
future generation. But I mean, what I'm seeing now, and I don't mean to be negative and hopeless, but I mean, every time you like open up the phone or turn on the news or just watch YouTube videos, it's like, oh, that's happening now. Great. Oh, that's happening now. Great. I mean, I think we're desensitized at this point because that's before it was like, but since 2020, actually, we went to the movies today and it's like stuck in time. The AMC theater
still in
reached 100
2020,
years in 2020 and they're still advertising 2020.
they don't want to leave it.
I think we're stuck in that kind of
They want to think we're still in a
yeah, yeah,
pandemic
yeah,
time.
crazy stuff.
No, but I mean, it's like the hopelessness. It doesn't serve any purpose when if you want to like complain about something, then where is where is it that we can find something to grab onto? I mean, you don't give us,
Well, that's
you're not
why.
giving us a ledge
Well, that's why
to
people
grab
need to like,
to
as
grab.
Jordan Peterson often says, Nietzsche said that God is dead, and he didn't mean that God is dead, but people have killed God. People no longer believe in anything, and they just believe in having fun and doing things for themselves and being selfish. Well, we need to believe in something to give us hope, to give us some sort of something, to realize, okay, not my plan, but your plan. And again, I don't want to claim any religion. I know that I believe in a God. I don't know what that looks like, and I'm still trying to figure that out. But I know that there's got to be something greater than me.
Well, I think that one of the things that we're both like really turned off by is just how it doesn't matter who you're talking to,
Mm.
that you always find yourself on like the receiving end of having your butt handed to you.
Right.
It's like, whether you're talking to a Christian, or whether you're talking to a trans activist, or, I mean, you're talking to a conservative or a liberal. I mean, it's like you have like this, there's like this inability these days for people just to respect others without diminishing the value, without
Mm.
poking fun at them, without
Without silencing them.
silencing them, without getting them to feel negative about themselves. You know, it's like, if you're a Christian out there, you see a person like me, like Mark, and we tell you that we would never advocate for transition at any age, you know, and you tell us, well, you need to let God heal you because what you're saying is literally just confusing youth because they see you as transition and then you're still living your life, but you need to go fix yourself before you can go and fix others and get that healing you need. Well, I hate to tell you, but you know, um, the healing doesn't just happen in a year or
Or
two
it may
or
never happen.
three
It may
or
never happen.
four.
I mean, I've been at this game for a very long time. I've been battling all sorts of stuff for a very long time. And it's hard. It is not easy being me. I know many of you think I have it all together, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe you think that I'm this hardcore individual, but I hide a lot of my pain and a lot of my suffering. Okay. And things that I put up with, you know. Um, but a healing is not magical. I tried detransitioning and it just did not feel right. It doesn't feel right when, like if I could do like that and be the person that I was before transition, then yes, no qualms about it. It'd be like instant. But I have had to battle with trying to shave, daily shaving of your body because my hair grows like weed, literally, and it's a strain on my face, a strain on my body. It's just it can't be done. You see these detransitioners that have only been on hormones for a few years, and it's like nothing ever happened. But I've been on testosterone and all sorts of different things since 1998. We are 2021. That's a
2022.
2022. Yeah, we're stuck there. That's a lot of years, and it cannot be taken away. I had somebody pray over me. Oh, may the hair grow back and the beard, and it's like the next day I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, bud. You want to shave me? It's not easy, and it's hard not to feel negative. It's hard to be told you're negative, and it's like, but when life, has been nothing but that from the moment I stepped out of my mother's womb, it's hard not to look at the world the way that I look at it. Because if you can't even have your own mother love you for who you are, and not to say that I'm a man because I know I'm not, but I've always been a very different kind of woman. And I've been shamed all my life. How can I be positive about anything if even the person that brought me to life does not love and accept me or even want anything to do with me? If you know, I mean, I know that yeah, we're together, but I know that as we're together as we are, because obviously, and it's a given that if you could go like that and go back with your family like nothing ever happened, that would be the first, and I want that. I would want that. Like I told you the other day, I
I
would give my
mean,
life. I would give my life for you to be able for if my life would be sacrificed so that everything could go back to normal for you, I'd do that.
and I understand that. I
Yeah.
understand that you're, in a perfect world with, and we could just reverse things
Yeah.
up. I mean, yeah, I mean, I look back at things and I see how I mishandled so many situations and how I let my own selfish desires and my own selfish needs and wants, I mean, it's like in the quest to alleviate gender dysphoria, you basically nuke everything else in front of you. It's like, how is that healthy to do?
It's not.
It's
It's
not
not.
healthy to do. And, if I would have known that, that this was what awaited me was this sense of uselessness, this sense of purposelessness. um, I I don't know what I would have done. I don't know if I would have just tried to live with my dysphoria and try to like deflect it
Right.
so that I could like be more useful to those around me and maybe carry it, I mean as a wound, because I mean we're all wounded, we all have we all have flaws. We all have things that we regret or that we struggle with. You know, whether we were abused as children or molested,
Yeah,
or
I know I
whether we
was.
were left alone a lot, or whether we were abandoned as children, and not literally abandoned in some cases, but just, psychologically abandoned by those that purported to love us.
And
Um,
Madeline joins us. And welcome, Madeline Renee. She says,
Nice to see you both this evening. I'm a Christian. I detransitioned twice, and here I am again. I've struggled with my faith as a trans woman, but it's been so many years living as a woman. I cope better as a woman. Gender dysphoria is a lifelong battle for many of
yeah,
us.
and I'm sure you could agree that it's something that never gets taken away no matter what we do. And that's why I say, so what is the purpose? What is the use? So, especially like you mentioned, it's like you had a purpose. You were a father, a beautiful wife, loved you. You had a great life. You had what most people would consider a perfect life.
I would have had, a great future in the sense
Yeah.
of, what I had to look forward to in life. If I could have tamed this one area in my
Yeah.
life and could have brought it under control.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is that, you know, things that incubate from an early period, they become huge,
Yeah.
huge,
I know.
huge
I know.
things
I know.
as
But
you get older.
I think if they would provide the proper help, not these fluff gender specialists that are there to, cattle along. Here, have your hormones or script. Do this, do that, and they're not really being helpful because in the long term, it's. I mean, as we age, and I see a lot of. I'm friends with many trans women throughout the years, and I see as they age, they're getting complications and they're in the hospital because they have heart conditions and they have all sorts of bone issue because now they have osteoporosis and because, they created problems by neutering themselves and so forth and so on. And these things have complications. Hormones matter. The hormones that are meant to flow through our system matters. And again, people don't want to hear that, but truth is truth, and that's the only thing that's going to set us free. For those of us, Madeline, you, I, and many that, have detransition, transition again, and whatever else. I mean, we know the struggle. I know you know the struggle, Madeline, struggling with your faith, because I believe that we push God away because we feel like, well, God can't love us this way. And Christians tell us that we're going to go to hell. And we are made to feel this small. We're shamed. I mean, I've been shamed from the moment I walked out of my mother's womb. And I've had to struggle with this shame all my entire life. And I got a little reprieve when I first transitioned, but then it came back. That inner voice of telling me, you've done something wrong. This is not the way to go. What are you doing? And you can't stop these feelings, this tormented. It's like, it's like demons literally tormenting you, that kind of thing. God, I wanted to.
No, I mean, I'm sorry that that's how you feel. I mean, I see things in a different way because I don't look at it as demons torturing me for doing what I did, but I get tortured in ways that are because I was a part of such a wonderful family structure that I just walked away from. And certain circumstances took place which accelerated that separation, and didn't make it any easier. It's like, I look back at my behavior. I look back at the un it's just the way of being
Mm-hmm.
that was not how I would have typically behaved.
Right.
And given the fact that transition was so like such a strong impetus in my mind, to go through with it, to go forward in my transition, and to do whatever it was that I needed to do. Um, I look back at those years, like 2011 up through 2013 and into 14, and how I behaved and
Hmm.
how it was so the word I was looking for was uncharacteristic
Yeah.
of a person who would put his family first, who would sacrifice to for the good of the family, who was concerned about the needs of the family, who was so like invested in making sure that everyone was safe. I
So
mean,
you would
if
safely
there
say
was,
that was out of character what you
it was
did.
totally out of
So
character.
when I mention the word demonic, which means a dark force or something that kind of like drives us to do things, within it's like this when we discover this whole concept of transitioning, it's like everything else just becomes second nature, and all we focus on is transition. I mean, anything else around you just falls apart. You don't care because all you want to do is transition. It's like a train, runaway train. And I know those of you that have dealt with transition know what I'm talking about because everyone does the same thing. It's like, oh wow, and then it's all about transition. Everything you're looking in on the internet, it's
No,
about.
but the crazy thing is that, you know, growing up
Mm-hmm.
through my young adult life into my 30s and then into my early 40s before I transitioned at 43, um, I was keeping it at bay.
Yeah.
You know, I was keeping it under wraps. I was keeping it at arm's length from affecting anyone else.
Right.
Like it was something that I just wanted to just like, okay, God, this is our issue.
Yeah.
You know that it's my weakness. You know it's something that I've contemplated, thought about, wanted to do. Help me, right? And that whole concept, and just throughout life, you know, just going through it, and then it's like having the first child, and the second one, and the third one, and fourth, and then the last one, which was, you know, a very traumatic situation where we almost lost him because he was born, you know, with the umbilical wrapped around him and stuff, and he had an issue breathing. And it was just like, you know, somehow I managed through that time.
Mm-hmm.
And one, like, I don't know where it took place, but in the early fall of 2011, I don't know what was the trigger, what was the lighter moment, you know, what was the flash, what
Mm-hmm.
was, because there's a catalyst all the
All the
time
time. Yeah.
when people do transition. You know, you we listen to um, uh, that trans guy who transitioned and was on the cover of Men's Health or something like that, or Men's Fitness or whatever,
Aiden.
Aiden Dowling,
Yeah.
and how he said, you know, I just started, I saw this, I heard this, or, you
Yeah.
know, I was given this,
Yeah.
I
It's
was
all. Yeah.
introduced to this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, these days it's people on TikTok.
Yeah.
These days it's,
On
you know,
Tumblr,
kids
people
on Tumblr
being
being
groomed.
groomed and
Yeah.
stuff. These days, in the last 10 years, it's YT. It's all these transitioners
Mm-hmm.
that have posted their, you know, because it was like a big deal
Mm-hmm.
back 10 years ago, that transitioners would post their before and afters, you
Right.
know, and this is me before I was sad and lonely and depressed, and now I'm like
Yeah.
happy, bubbly, and
Yeah.
joyful.
For
Or I was sad and unsure of myself, and now I'm strong and
yeah.
powerful, and I lift weights, and
Yeah.
I'm a man's man or
Yeah, and
something.
you
You
give it a
know,
few years, but I'm like I said, I'm friends with a lot of trans people, and I get stuff in the news feed, and it's like, oh my depression, oh my anxiety, oh my this, oh my that. I'm just like, oh, so all that didn't go away after your transition. Okay, so it's like I try to find that, like, okay, well, you did this, now you're all better and you're ready to go, but it's not that way, and that's the problem. Like Madeline said, is it's a lifelong, it's a battle.
but it's like, you know, if you're a middle-aged man with gender dysphoria and you're dealing with issues that, you know, that you feel are insurmountable. You have a family, you make money, and you have a career, and you have respect and honor, and people look up to you, and you have a purpose in life, you have meaning, you know, I would definitely give you the advice to never walk down this road, never come down this pathway, because it's the land of broken dreams.
Yeah.
It's the land of broken promises. It's the land of you'll always be a misfit as
Hmm.
a trans person.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like you can't even be truthful about who you are. You can't be honest about what you do.
Right.
You can't be honest about your past. I mean, there's so many instances where I hear, you know, trans women, trans men talking about how they have to recreate their past. Like when I was a little girl, when I was a little boy.
Yeah.
And so, what was it like? Where are you from? And what did you do before? And what high school? And it's like, oh God, don't look me up on YouTube.
I
Don't look me
know.
up on Facebook. You're going to find out,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like this false pretense
Hmm.
of an identity that you want to have, but that is not really yours,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So Madeline says, I cannot imagine the pain you endured as you suffered with your dysphoria while having a family. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I'm so glad you have each other. And yes, I'm grateful that we have each other, but I know that there's a hole that I know I will never be able to fulfill. I know that it's just, it's, I don't even know what words to use, but it's been rough. It's been a rough ride watching Lynna suffer. Um, it's it's very frustrating when you can't make the person you love happy because you know that nothing will make them happy. Nothing, no matter nothing. I mean, I'm talking about nothing, and that's very disheartening for another human being who's trying to have a relationship with a human being. And I can't blame her because I'd probably be the same. You know, um, but it's because not only did you know she hurt those she loved and did whatever, well, now there's like never going to end up being um, full full happiness. And it's something that I live with, and I try to, like, along with everything else that's happened in my life, it's like, okay, well, here's another cross that I got to carry and I got to bear and I got to deal with it. And it's been like that from the very beginning. you know and that's why the breakups at times, because I'm like, look, I don't want to be a stumbling block in your life. It's been, yeah, it's
And you
been.
know, we have these conversations because, I mean, the truth is that, you know, there's that hole, you know, and I feel absolutely, um, I guess, you know, just empty not being able to know those little people
Yeah.
that I brought into this world. Not being able to ask them how their day went, not to be able to know how their school is, or what, you know, what challenges they have. And you know, here we are in the time of such peril and you know, negativity inducing trauma that we have to endure with, you know, the state of the world and the conditions that we, you know, our president saying that we're going to have food shortages in a country that has been so abundantly blessed with everything, and where everything grows and stuff. And I mean, now we're going to have food shortages, you know, and I can't protect my family. And I can't say, hey, this is a good idea. Hey, maybe you want to do this, or hey, are you thinking about, I can't give any words of wisdom because I'm a fool. You know, I can't give any words of encouragement because I'm cut off. You know, it's like, you know,
And that's
I
why
mean,
the warning, 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 warning. If you're, at certain age and you have a family and you're thinking about doing this, understand that your happiness will never be there. because you will never be able to be happy yourself. You will never be able to make anybody else happy, because to be happy in a relationship, it's a you know a mutual thing, and people, and we all have baggage, because we all have baggage. We all come with baggages, but this kind of baggage is heavy. It's a heavy baggage. It's a baggage that no matter how much you try to maybe take out of that suitcase, it just keeps producing more stuff by itself or
And so,
something.
recently, we've been talking about, there's like this connection to the divine
Mm-hmm.
that we all, you know, I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but I know that for you and I,
Mm-hmm.
when we disconnect from the divine and we try to go within and we try to find the God within and all that, it's like there's like this emptiness, I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and then I hear some old like music from the past, of my Christian music or something. I hear it and it promises so many things, and then you're just like taken and you're torn because you're like, but I find relevance in that. I find meaning in that. I find hope in that. I find purpose in that. And then it's like, okay, but then if I go to church, then I'm like black sheep. I'm not really welcome there if they know the truth about me. So we find ourselves at a place of like, well, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
Because there's a hole.
Yeah.
There's definitely a connection to the divine that we want to have, and that that brings us to what you were reading about in Genesis 1 about these two like separate accounts
Yeah, I
of
believe there were
a
two
creation.
creations in the Bible. It speaks of two different creations, and that would mean two different gods. And I know a lot of Christians don't want to see that and don't understand that, but I believe that we have a prime creator, the creator of all, the real father, mother of everything, right? And then I believe that there are these fallen angels, call them the Elohims, the Anunnaki, whatever you want to call them, that came and messed with God's creation. Now, I want to read to you Genesis 1, um, 27. And God made man in his image. In the image of God, he made him, male and female, he made them. Okay. And God gave them his blessings and said to them, be fertile and have increase and make the earth full and be master of it, but be rulers over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over every living thing moving on earth. Okay, that's the first creation. Then we got Genesis 2. And the Lord sent a deep sleep on the man. No, wait, let me back up. Genesis 2:20. And the man gave names to all cattle and to the birds of the air and to every beast of the field. But Adam had no one like himself as a help. I just finished saying that God made male and female, right? Um, Male and female, he made them. Well, here it says, Genesis 2, that he had no one. So he now, the Lord had, let's see, and the Lord sent a deep sleep, that's Genesis 2:21, on the man and took one of the bones from his side while he was sleeping, joining up the flesh again in his place. And the bone which the Lord God, notice it talks about the Lord God, it talks about God, Genesis 1. Here we put the word Lord God had taken from the man, he made into a woman and took her to the man. And the man said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Let her name be woman, because she was taken out of man. For this cause will a man go away from his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and they will be one flesh. And the man and his wife were without clothing, and they had no sense of shame. So Genesis 1, and God, there's no mention of Lord at all in Genesis 1. Everything's God. But Genesis 2, we start seeing Lord God. Lord God. I mean, you know, that's something to really ponder and look deeply about. And Genesis 3, so the Lord God sent him out of the garden when they did. the unthinkable of these Elohims. They didn't want them to know the truth or whatever. And yeah, so why the Lord God and then God on the other? So I believe the Bible speaks of probably more than two. I think there's other, and then his name is Jealous or something like that. There's several God, uh,
Jehovah or
Jehovah. I mean, there's some Yahweh, Jehovah. There's
Timir.
yeah,
What are
yeah.
you
There's all
talking
sorts
about?
of different. So I mean,
Well, I mean, we were talking about it. Nakamadi, talks about how each fallen angel had a piece of the body of man to be responsible for, to put
mm,
together. I
yep,
mean, these are ancient manuscripts that many in the church would debunk and say that they're not truthful. They're not as good as scripture to be used and stuff like that.
right.
But just the fact that there's a deeper account into the creation story, and the fact that there's a distinct difference between okay, so if this God that created man in the image of said creator, you know made man male and female, created them,
Mm-hmm.
then why is he looking for a pair for
Yeah,
a
after in
partner, a
Genesis 2,
mate?
well, now he's
Why is he all of a sudden now
uh,
looking for someone to be his companion, to be Adam's companion?
yeah.
I mean,
And then there's a lot of
it
stuff like this
doesn't.
in the Bible that just doesn't jive. And to saying that, I'm not saying that I don't believe in God. I believe in God with all my heart and soul. I know that there is something greater than me. And that has been my search, trying to find what this something greater than me is. So that's why I've gone to Christianity, and I've studied all sorts of different religion, and I've called myself an agnostic, and I've called myself all sorts of different things in the search of the truth. The Bible has a lot of truth and has a lot of lies. It has a lot of things that are put in there to confuse us. And that's one of the things that I want us to be able to cover during these live shows, and have people maybe call in, and eventually like to also interview individuals that may feel how you feel, that may have left their family to transition, and now they're like, what did I do? Because I think it's important. I think it's important for people to understand the truth behind all of this. I think it's important for people to be able to speak up and not be silenced, because there might be somebody out there that might be needing to hear
I think.
another point of view.
I think that and I would speak to like that Christian community to say, you know, the judgment, the way of going about how you address people like us, how you um, speak to us in ways that are like, so what, disrespectful, or what is
So
it that you're, I mean, like that interaction you had with.
disconnected. That wasn't a Christian person. It's very disconnected. Very disconnected. Lack of understanding, and that goes for
But
the
even like,
feminist.
yeah,
That goes for anyone that has this anti-trans rhetoric. And I get it. I understand that. I'm trans, and I'm pretty anti-trans myself, in a sense. I don't think this solves anything. Not that I have anything against trans people, okay, because I know the pains you're all going through, but I'm against this whole medicalization, because it creates a lot more problems than what it solves, okay, in my opinion. So it's important for us to communicate as human beings, be able to speak up, be able to say, this is okay, this is not okay. Like what we find not okay is transitioning children. We don't find okay these trans athletes that are just, and now it's not just the swimmer. Now there's a cyclist that is planning to compete because now they've got their testosterone levels low. It's like, where does it end? Where does it end? And if you are a mature um, human being at a certain age and you have a family, please think this through. Think this through, because you're not only going to hurt your family, But any other person that you're ever going to be with is going to feel that gap and that hole and that disconnect. And that's it's not fair. It really isn't. It's not fair to any human being. You know, it's yeah, really rough stuff. But yeah, Christians need to like really, you know, think this through. This new Team GB cycling star is only 21 years old, and they're planning on competing for the what is it? The British cycling, the sports governing body. They're planning to compete against women. Let me. I guess I could share this. Share screen. Share. Boom, 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 boom. Team right here. That's the cyclist who plans to compete. They're 21 years old, and you know, that's
Yeah, lung capacity has a huge factor in the sport of cycling. Lance Armstrong, he would, switch out his the oxygen level in his blood
mm-hmm.
with some other kind of blood, and
Yeah,
I mean, and he had like already extra large lungs, but
yeah,
any male is going to have, and it doesn't matter if you are um, uh, taking estrogen or not, or taking testosterone blockers or not, that does not reduce the size of your heart
nope,
or that those lungs.
yeah,
I mean, and those are huge in the sport of cycling, just as they are in the sport of swimming.
yeah,
I mean, that blood pumping through the heart and then the oxygen pumping through those lungs and stuff. I mean, those are pretty
yeah, and
major organs
yeah,
that are, and you're talking about, bone
density
density
and
and
muscle size. And although
fast twitch.
you lose some muscles when you're on estrogen, but you don't lose it all, and you don't lose that advantage. You don't. I mean, there's just it's like I don't understand why people can't see that, and I don't understand why people can't see that giving blockers to children and putting them on hormones at an early age and performing irreversible surgeries to their bodies, how that could be good. All in the quest to alleviate gender dysphoria when it's never fully alleviated.
Madeline said something else. She said, I just want to say my belief in God may be different than yours, but we all can still have a deep connection with our Creator. As trans people, we can find that peace in the midst of our struggle.
Oh, definitely. And, I'm trying to work my way back to that connection with God, because whenever I get, attacked and feel shamed by the Christian community, I take it out on God and I get upset at him because, it's like, oh yeah, well, I'm not going to believe in you then, that kind of thing. And there's always a void, there's always a void and I can't afford any more voids because I don't have anybody. My entire family has totally disowned me, you know, and I know I have Lynna, but I know that there's a limitation to that, and there's, I mean, uh, and I understand it, I understand it fully, it's like you need to first heal and be able to work through all the pain and all the things that you've been through to be able to give yourself to someone else. And, it's like, I'll take what I can, that kind of thing, and because my love for her knows no boundaries, and I think you've all seen that, throughout the breakups and coming back together. And whenever I see that, she's in some sort of danger or something, it's like I throw myself out the window, and you are you've become everything to me. I mean, you taught me what it felt like to have compassion, to see somebody helpless that needed me, which, I guess I would be the same thing with your children, that, because I never had any children, I wouldn't know what that feels like. I only knows what it feels like to be a child of a parent who is not, the parent that I would have hoped to have had. That's the only way that I could, relate to that. But yeah, it's
And I just want to be really clear. And you know, I know that there's lots of people that used to follow me and stuff on my YouTube channel and stuff, and would say, "But why? Why did you go back? Why did you do this? Why did you do that?" I love you. I love this person. I mean, I don't feel like, you know, um, trapped or anything because of him, in the sense of what we have as a couple and stuff. We've been through a lot together, going through lots of things that we've had to endure as a couple. I mean, my accident being one, and then all the different scenarios that we've been in throughout our relationship with each other, whether we detransitioned together or whether we transitioned on and wherever we moved to. Regardless, um, the pain that I deal with and the lack of the sadness that I feel is because of what has transpired in my life since losing my meaning and purpose of existence. And I want to translate that over to just understanding that I should do that for you, but I understand that my kids are still
oh, I
alive.
know, and I would never
They're
ask you.
still they're still wanting resolution somehow, and in some small way I'm
Right.
like hoping that that they're going to watch a video or something and hear my heart out about, "I'm so sorry. I wish I could have done better. I wish I could have been there for you. I wish I could have protected you. I wish I could have seen you grow. I wish I could have, you know, just bottled this thing that I was dealing with up and just dealt with it in a private manner and not have sacrificed you guys at the altar of me, and because of that. And that's one of the things that you have always said was, um, I just want you to promise me that you're going to give me all of you. Like when we first got married in 2015, you said, I want you to give me, to be able to give me all of you. I know you can't yet, but I want you to get to the place. And here we are, 2022, and I still find that to be a problem
And like I
for me
said,
to
I've
do
learned
such a
to
thing.
I've learned to understand that that'll never happen. And and I'm the first person that said to you, you've got to do what you got to do. I've broken up several times, and because I didn't want to be in the way. I didn't want to be a stumbling block. But the relationships never got better, even without me in the way. So I'm like, well,
And I also, when you decided to pursue your relationship with God and stuff last year, and I exited your life, it was part of that reason was because I didn't want to be a stumbling block to you, to be able to realize your connection with God. If I was being a stumbling block in
right.
that area, I didn't want to do that. So, I mean, there's so many things that have taken place. And last year, I have a person that I knew back in Washington that got really bothered by the fact that we got back together. This person has been absolutely, you know, um, opposed to you in every way, had been a part of why we even broke up the first time, and had been, she wanted me to live my life in a way that I could be at peace with myself, that I could reconnect with my mother and my children, and she wanted that for me. And I guess she feels that I don't have that opportunity with you, but it's like but she doesn't understand. And what so many people that look at us getting back together and going, oh, why, Lynna, why'd you do that? Or people that look at you and go, wow, Mirta, why you do that?
Mhm.
I mean, it's like you can't win for losing with these people because I mean, no matter if we transition, detransition, if we acknowledge Jesus, if don't acknowledge Jesus, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
We're always in the wrong.
Mhm.
We can never be good enough, right enough. We can't do the right thing at the right time for these people. And I proved to myself last year that I couldn't live without you. I proved to myself that I couldn't do life without killing myself without you in it. So it's either I'm going to be by myself and I'm just going to end up doing something stupid, like I opened to today talking about, you know, how I feel like my prefrontal cortex hasn't really fully developed and I didn't really know what it meant to risk this and that. And, I mean, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what people are thinking to think that, I'd be better off alone than with you. And you're the last remaining person of value in my life. Why would I want to walk away from you when eventually I feel like maybe we could help heal each other if we give it enough time to do so? That we could actually rise above all of this destruction and junk that we've brought upon ourselves and upon our lives and what we've done, and to heal somehow together
I hope
and
so.
grow. I know that, I mean, we're better together than apart. you know
And Madeline says, I left the Christian church. I follow Christ, not the Christian religion. Two different things. Christianity is man made. Not much of the real faith wait, much of the real faith Christ preached. My journey is a long story.
we'd love to
Love to hear it.
hear
Maybe
about
if
that
you,
story.
we'd like to be able to get back to interviewing people. That's one of the things I love to do. And Transition Radio Show, since its inception in 2012, was all about interviewing people. So we'd love to do that. If you're interested, Madeline, you could shoot us an email at transitionradioshow@gmail.com. Or if not, we could just, do a video chat just to get to know each other more. But we'd love to interview you if you're willing to. So transitionradioshow@gmail.com. The email should be somewhere down in the description area.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to know how people justify having a relationship with Christ, and being trans, how that how that actually works.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people I know in the circles I grew up in that would say that
Yeah.
it's not true.
Yeah.
That you have to come clean, you have to repent, you have to change your ways, you have to detransition, you have to tell God that you're meaning business, right?
Right.
That you're serious about, the error of your ways
Well,
and all
everybody's
that.
got errors of their ways. Everybody sins daily. There's no sin greater than another sin. And that's why, in my opinion, Christ died on the cross to clean us of those sins. And now I know he said, go sin no more. But, it's impossible to live a sinless life as long as you have these bodies. Because your thoughts, many of them are sinful. The actions that you do, the things you do, when you cut somebody off on the road, when you get angry at somebody, well, all these different things, when you eat too much and gluttony, and when you don't take care of the temple that you're given, there's so many different ways of sinning. So I know that the top of the list is part of the LGBT. Um, that's the biggest sin according to Christianity, and I would love to be able to bridge that gap. I would love to be able to challenge those in the Christian community, understand that church is a hospital for those in need of healing, and we can't heal And whatever that healing looks like, it doesn't always mean that people are going to detransition. So Madeline here has detransitioned a couple of times and gone back. There's got to be a reason for that, right? There's got to be a reason for us to like go back. I know I cannot live presenting as a woman. I know I'm a woman and I have no problem with my biology, but no one knows the struggle. Only those of us that have detransitioned and gone back, and especially if you've been on hormones for so many years. It's just, those of you that detransition beautifully, bless you. I'm very happy for you. You've only been on hormones for a few years and it wasn't as difficult. But I've been on hormones since 1998. Started as a female bodybuilder and then went into the whole treatment in 2003. So many years of androgen. And besides the fact that I was already filled with androgen from the medication my mother took to prevent miscarriages. So, you know, I know I can't please everyone, because it's like I either got the trans community mad at me, or I got the Christian community mad at me, I got the feminists mad at me. I always make matters. People make getting mad at me some way or another, but I'm not here to please anyone, and the only one that really matters for me to please is my spouse and the true Creator, and I'm trying to work that relationship back. I'm slowly trying to, it's like, you feel ashamed, you feel all sorts of different things, and I'm trying to like work it through so that I don't feel like I'm some piranha and that God wouldn't love me for what I've done. You know, that's pretty sad. I know we got somebody older on this person.
Cindy says Old Testament, first human was male and female, and the Holy Spirit was referred to as a female.
Interesting. Yeah. That's what we were talking about. I said I think the first creation was both a man and a woman, and
Well,
then
see,
came the Elohims, those that the interdimensional beings, and separated us and
well,
did
see what,
something.
what I was reading in Genesis 1:26 in the Amplified Bible. It says, "Then God said, 'Let us,'"
Uh-huh.
and then it says, "make man in our image, according to our likeness," and then in parentheses it says, "not physical, but a spiritual personality and moral likeness." So it's almost like the physicality of these human flesh and bone bodies weren't created by the initial
Creator,
creator.
right?
That the initial creator brought the spark of
Dignity,
eternity
yeah.
into
Our morality, our spirit, our
right.
consciousness. Yeah.
Our likeness was a spiritual likeness.
And
You know,
the fact that the Holy Spirit refers to as female, when I was really delving into the Bible, I forgot I think it's Romans, was talking about the Holy Spirit, and they were referring to the Holy Spirit as female. And I know that's like a big no-no, in churches because they don't want to give women any credit for anything, or everything's got to be male derived. But that makes a lot of sense to me that the Holy Spirit
I mean, what is
is
it when
female.
when God says something about, and if I would have held you in my womb, or
Yeah,
I mean, it's
exactly.
like
Exactly.
so
There's a lot to uncover, and we want to be able to make this a space for that. Bring in back the phone lines and have people call in and interview people, regarding like Madeline would love to share your story. Hey, Q87, everybody's showing up while we're getting ready to
uh,
to call it a night, but
Old Testament first human was
male
male and
and
female.
female, yeah, because
Yeah,
that's what when I read Genesis 1, that's what it
no, but that's I mean
was
what
male
I
and
what I
female.
what I understand is also in another such account I hear about the fact that that this going into the rib wasn't really like just putting this one creation to sleep and pulling something else out. It was literally a cutting of and a division of that one being into two separate
Right. And there's
beings.
something to do with the rib because when Jesus was sacrificed, didn't they put a
The
sword
sword
right on?
through
There's
his
so
rib.
much to really unravel. and really to break down the scriptures to try to understand. And I think it's time for us human beings to do that. People are too afraid to do that. They call it blasphemy, they call it all sorts of things, but it's important for us to understand, where did we come from? Why are we here? What lies in the future? What happens after you die? I believe this is hell right here. I mean, seriously. Right now we're kind of living, it's like,
But
you
I
know,
wouldn't say it's hell in the sense of the lake of fire. I
no,
would
but
say
it's a
it's hell in the
reforming,
sense of like a place to like
refine,
refine
hmm
you, a place to test your metal, a place to,
alchemy.
yeah, a place to burn the chaff, a
Yeah,
place to burn out your impurities.
yes.
I mean,
But that's why I said this is the living hell. This is what we're constantly being challenged, constantly breaking apart to get rebuilt. We're constantly feeling pain and all sorts of different things that up in heaven, where you know where spirits live, you don't get to experience these kind of things. That's why everyone's dying to come down here, in a sense, right? To be
well,
able
I
to.
mean, it's just that we have to kind of like go away from all those traditional, definitions
Oh,
of
definitely.
what hell is. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
hell isn't like, what's it? Psalm 23 says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil."
Right.
That God will even go down to hell to rescue you. I mean, it's like this. It's not this place of eternal torment, as it is a place of refinement
Right. Well, it
and
can be.
purging and
Right.
a
Right.
cutting away of the useless part of you, and to make you a better
Better person,
spirit,
right?
right?
Making the image, like in the first Genesis 1, of our morals to be like our Creator's morals, and like I said, there's so much to unpack, and that will be for another show next Sunday. We're not giving specific times because it all depends. Like last week we did one at 3. Today we went to the movies and just watch some stuff on TV, and then we said, let's have a show. But we want to be able to start interviewing people again, and break down, beliefs, and really try to understand each other, try to understand our Creator, and I don't know, just like really make better connections and understanding, and break down this whole thing of transition. Where has it gotten us? Where is it going? And how can we better understand it? But if you're all interested in being interviewed, send us an email to transitionradioshow@gmail.com. And if you're interested in any topic that you want us to cover, send us an email and let us know. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think, one of the things, the biggest takeaways for tonight is just to like really let people know that it's imperative that they understand the risks and the um, the things that are at stake when one does choose to transition. Um, if you're a late blooming transitioner and you feel that this is the best path for you, and you have a family or you're dealing with, a long time marriage, even without kids, think twice. Think twice, because um, you may alleviate your dysphoria, but you may cause another dysphoria of another kind that's even worse than gender. You know,
Because gender isn't
I
everything.
mean,
Gender really isn't everything. We've made it. I mean, I think especially the past 20 years has been the gender identity crisis. Where people just are trying to invent new genders and trying to change their gender, and not realizing that there's really only two reasons, or two sexes, and they each have a role in life. We're animals, right? We want to propagate, and that's basically why we are different, and why we have different reproductive organs and everything. Besides that, it really doesn't matter what gender you are. It really what's other.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, look at your look at your purpose. Look at
mhm,
what has been entrusted to you, and try to hold on to it.
mhm,
Because when you lose it, you lose meaning.
mhm,
You lose. It's like remember that old movie Back to the Future
mhm,
when Marty McFly is in a race against time, and if he doesn't do a certain thing, like get his mom and dad together, then they won't exist. Remember that movie?
mhm.
Remember how the picture was erasing
Fading, yeah,
the
yeah,
do this is what happens
yeah, yeah.
with late transitioning people
Wow,
who
family.
have families
Mhm,
and are married. I mean, you literally erase
yeah,
yourself
mhm.
out of that picture because you're no longer in existence in their
And
life.
if the family doesn't push you aside and accepts you because they're not putting their morals and their values in front and they're loving unconditionally, you are actually kind of like altering their universe because now they no longer have that father and they have to deal with, you know, your reality has now become their reality forcefully. And, that comes with a price too. And I know people that have had their family be okay with who they are, but have no significant other in their life. So you may gain something, but you're going to lose something else. Like I've mentioned before, you get rid of one pain, but before you know it, you've got this bigger pain now that's growing. So you got to
There was a movie. It was a prime series about the JFK thing or something, and then
mm-hmm,
the guy was like all bent on like preventing Oswald from shooting
mm-hmm,
the president, and he was able to do it.
mm-hmm,
But then a time capsule event happened where he was able to move forward in time into the year of present day, and he comes into this post-apocalyptic world
mm-hmm.
because in preventing something that happened in history, he created an apocalyptic
Yeah,
ending
yeah,
to the entire world. And it's like, when you transition and you think that you're altering your world for the better, and you alter your world, you live in your altered state, you live in your altered world, but you didn't just alter your world, you altered everyone else's world
yeah,
too. Everyone else that knew you now has to live in your altered
reality.
reality.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
in
that's not
my
fair.
case, my kids have to live in an altered reality of not having a dad, and what that means for them and their offspring.
Yeah.
It's
So
just,
things to think about, things to really ponder and understand what the ramifications are. It's not all fun and games. It's not all about you because we're not an island. We're really not. We need each other, and we need decisions that we make in life needs to be decisions that are going to help the greater good, not just one group of people, and not just one person. So,
I mean, if your answer to what you're struggling with only helps you, then I would think twice about doing it. You
mhm,
know, because if it's not going to help other people,
mhm,
which is
yeah,
the reason we're even here.
yeah,
You know,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And Madeline says, "Wise words, Lynna." Yeah. All right, guys. I guess we're going to call it quits because tomorrow is an early morning, gym, then work. We'll catch you next
gin.
Sunday.
We're gonna
Jim.
have gin.
No, Jim.
Oh, Jim.
Jim, then work.
vodka.
vodka. But yeah, so yeah, email if you're interested in being interviewed, and or you have any requests for us to what you want us to cover on the show. And remember to subscribe, hit that notification button, so that way when we do come live, you get notified, because we don't know about like before I used to always have a time and whatever, and it doesn't work anymore. So Sundays are definitely
The
the
day.
day. So we're gonna go ahead, and if you all came in late, rewind. A lot of good stuff that we covered, um, and you could always comment in the comment section. And yeah, that's it, right?
That's it.
Be safe, guys. Take care of yourself. We're living in a crazy world. You need to like really, you know, like find some peace inside, and whatever you believe in, whatever it is that you pray to, meditate to, you know, become closer to whatever that is, because we're going to need the connection with the times that we're going through. All right, guys, we love you. Oh, let's see. Water Girl 49, thank you. I know I don't say much, but I watched when I can. When I can. Have a good night.
Oh, thank you, Water
Thank you, Water
Girl.
Girl. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you,
Thanks,
Madeline. Thank
Madeline.
you, Cub. Thank you, Delaney, and all that have watched,
And
and
all that.
Cindy,
Yeah.
and all that. Just watch from silence. We love you guys. But remember
Remember
to
to
always
always
love
love
yourselves
yourselves
too.
too.
Have a good one. Good night.